Check, check, check. That should be it right there. Hello, hello. You guys should be able to hear me now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Writer's Room. We're going to be working on stories. We're going to be answering questions. Hopefully you guys can hear just fine now. This should be good too. Yep. All right. Cool, cool. Perfect. There it is. Hopefully you can hear now, Ruby. You know my name. 2 thumbs up. Excellent. Excellent. Alex can hear. Good, good, good. Cool. Well, today I want to talk a little bit about midpoints again. We were discussing the midpoint climax last live stream, and we were talking about how the midpoint climax is like the dark climax of your story. And I want to express this using one of the huge, extremely popular movies of the last 2 decades, which was The Dark Knight. I think the midpoint of The Dark Knight is probably the most powerful part of the film. And I think it's a very good case study in how a midpoint actually works and how you are really creating these 2 stories. The first story that takes your characters from the beginning to that dark midpoint climax, and then the second story that takes your characters from that midpoint climax back up and into the positive climax at the end of the story. So, I'm also, before we get rolling, I'm going to find a clip here from the midpoint that I can use. Let's see, The Dark Knight. Let's say, so it's going to be this scene. Let me collect some of these scenes. I'm working on a better way to show you guys movie clips in a way that doesn't get me sent with big fines or copyright issues or any of that, because it can be a little inefficient to just look up YouTube clips forever, but we'll see how that works. Let me get a couple of these scenes though. Okay, this should be good. And here's how I want to do this today. I want to go like this. Here. Put this on this side. Something like this. Just getting set up here. Yeah, we'll do that. Excellent. Okay. This should work. Okay, so essentially what you're going to see here on the screen is these 2 sides. I'm going to have the story circle over here on the left. Then we're going to have the clip over here on the right. Hopefully this is clear. So let me start out by setting up our initial story circle. I also, hopefully you guys notice, I made my mouse a little bigger so that you guys can follow it a little easier. It also changes colors depending on what side it's on. So if it's over here, anyways, I like it. So let's look at our big story circle here. So in the beginning, who's our character, right? Our character is Batman / Bruce Wayne, right? Batman wants order and justice in Gotham, and specifically to make this is kind of the big idea of what he wants. And then specifically in the external world, Batman wants to stop the mob, right? So when we begin the film, Batman is specifically going after the mob. This is how we have our first act where Batman and Joker are not really interacting very much at all. It's because Batman is going after the mob specifically. And then really what happens is the big inciting incident problem of the whole story is that Joker enters. Initially, the idea is to help the mob, right? Help the mob by killing Batman. That's what he says he's trying to do. So because Batman wants to stop the mob, now Joker is here to help the mob. This obviously puts them in direct conflict with each other. So Batman chooses to stop Joker. So this is Act 1. Act 2, we have a lot of Batman versus Joker here initially, where Joker is moving around the city, getting acquainted. Batman is trying to find him. We also have that big moment in the film where I believe it's Gordon is shot at Commissioner Loeb's funeral, right? So Joker kills Commissioner Loeb, he kills a judge, and he's going for Harvey in that initial climax of Act 1. So here, this is where we have that climax, the climax of Act 1 takes place right here, right? This is our climax over here. Fractals down into the single act. This is also our climax. Joker goes after Harvey Dent, right? We have the whole, we made it. He goes into the party. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Where's Harvey Dent, right? He's looking for him. He doesn't find him. He does learn about Rachel, though. Joker escapes in that scene. Batman saves Rachel. That's our climax of Act 1. Then we go into Act 2. Gordon is shot at Loeb's funeral, and that is essentially used as this ploy where Harvey now says, I'm the Batman. The Joker comes after Batman. Harvey Dent, really. And then Batman stops. Batman and Gordon stop Joker at the midpoint. So Batman and Gordon capture Joker here, right? Now notice, this is supposed to be where the story ends, right? From the perspective of Gordon and Batman, this is where the story ends. They've captured the big bad guy, right? We've got him right here.
Harvey Dent never made it home.
Let me bump this up.
Of course not. What have you done with him?
Okay, I can't hear that.
Your people.
Wait, is it in my headphones or is it coming in somewhere else? Oh, okay, here we go.
And not Mowery.
There we go. Okay, so at this point in the story, this interrogation scene, this is where the story is supposed to end, right? They've captured the Joker, movie over, right? We don't need any of this stuff over here because Joker's been captured. So this is where this midpoint, right? This climax here, this is your dark climax, right? This is your midpoint. This is where the characters believe that they have won. Things are all good, right? But nope, we get a huge problem arises here, right? We get a huge cost, a huge surprise problem. Notice that the 6 is a surprise problem, and I know that this is shown over Act 3 here, and then this is Act 4. But this midpoint problem, when we come into the mini circle of Act 2, right? If I came in here and made a circle for Act 2, and I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the story circle specifically for Act 2, this is where the midpoint happens, right? The 5, 6, 7 here creates this larger midpoint that we see in the bigger sense of the story circle, right? So how do we have this play out? Well, rather than Joker simply coming in and being captured, he came in here with a plan, right? And the lie that Batman is about to shed is that criminals are not complicated, right? That they do not have beliefs and worldviews outside of just, I want money, I want to do crime for money, this kind of thing, right? This is what Batman's lie is in the film. He believes that Joker is just a dog of the mob, right? He's just a guy that they've hired to do a job. He does not realize that he has an entire worldview, right? And so that's essentially what he learns on the other side, is that Joker does have a worldview, and he's trying to prove something. He's trying to send a message to the people of Gotham, not simply just get money. So within this scene here, right, we have this long scene, great midpoint scene, where this is essentially our moment of the 5, right? We are here in the story circle of Act 2. We're at the 5. Joker's been captured.
Here I am.
The only problem is we have an immediate 6, and the immediate 6 is Harvey Dent is missing. So the reason that Batman and Joker are speaking to each other here is because Batman wants Joker to tell him where Harvey is, right? It's very simple. This is where we get into our scene formula. So in the scene, right, in my previous video, let me just grab my my frameworks here. Here, I'll just grab it from this one. So way down here in the detailed scene to scene outline, we've got this scene formula. So who wants what? Character 1, who wants what in the scene? Who's in their way? Right? And this, it's very clear. Go away. Let me type in here, please. Let me type. Okay. So here, right, Batman wants Joker to give him Harvey's location, right? It's that simple. That's why they're having this whole conversation. So in this interrogation scene, right, we get into this whole big discussion about Joker's worldview and what he's thinking. And the scene is motivated specifically because Batman wants Joker to give him Harvey's location. That is the choice presented in the scene, which is essentially, will Joker tell Batman where Harvey is? Right? Very simple choice. And so you'll notice who has the power of the choice here. Joker has the power of the choice, and that gives him the power in this conflict, right? Because Batman does not want to be here. He doesn't want to be talking to Joker. He wants Joker to sit here and rot in prison. He needs to know where Harvey is. Therefore, this gives Joker the power in the scene, even though he's the one sitting in the prison interrogation room, right? That's how the scene is able to make Joker feel so powerful, even though he's the one in a supposedly non-powerful position here.
The way things were. But
like here, for example,
so they can get
he says, where's Dent? Just to show you guys.
You let Dent take your place. Even to a guy like me, that's cold. Where's Dent?
So that's all Batman is looking for, right? All he's looking for is, where's Harvey Dent? And this is why Joker is using the fact that he has this information that Batman wants to express what he thinks. And the audience goes with this, right? We don't feel like this monologue from Joker and him discussing his worldview, we don't feel like it doesn't work because it is motivated by the context of what's going on. Because there's a real reason for this conversation to be happening. Batman is trying to get the information about where Harvey Dent is. And so then, now, looking at scene object, you'll notice I hear, what is the important object the debate is over? This question is here in the scene formula to give you a sense of what to expect, or to give a flavor to the room that your characters are in. The space that the characters are in should be important to the conflict that's happening, and that is exactly what we see here. You'll notice that the lights are used. The lights are part of the scene object, right? We start dark, and then we go to here.
I'm gonna need a cup of coffee.
The good cop, bad cop routine.
Not exactly.
Right? So first we have the lights. Then we have the table.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy. He can't feel the next.
Right? So now we have the lights and we have the table. And then later on, you will see in the stakes raise, the chair also comes into play. And the table continues to come into play throughout the scene. So, side A versus side B, where do all the characters stand on the choice? This is Batman versus Joker. You could also say that Gordon is over here with Batman as well. Because even as Batman is increasing his intensity of interrogating Joker, Gordon is outside with the cops on Batman's side, right? Saying he's in control, this kind of thing. Right here.
See?
You wanted me. Here I am.
I wanted to see what you'd do.
Right, so out here now we have all these cops are adding pressure to what's going on, right? And this is a really subtle thing that's happening in this just little cutaway that we get that adds so much to the scene. Because through this little cutaway, look at all these characters we're now adding to this drama. The amount of people, especially important characters to the drama, these three especially, boom, 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 they add weight to what's going on. That's why a climax is usually going to take place in front of a lot of characters, right? A lot of important characters are going to be involved in a climactic moment. This is our midpoint climax, because that adds weight, right? If your entire story is two characters, it feels small. It doesn't feel big. If you add more characters to it, it creates this size, even like this, where it's mainly about these two characters, Batman and Joker, in the interrogation room, but these cops outside, they add a level of weight to it because now they are complicit in what's going on, right? They are allowing this conversation with Batman and the Joker to happen, and Gordon's reputation is on the line, Harvey Dent's life is on the line, the stakes are clear. So the big moment here, how is pressure built on the choice? And this goes back into the big 6 beat that's going to happen here, right? First, we have Harvey Dent is missing, right? The big problem in this scene is that Harvey Dent is missing, and Batman, therefore, is asking Joker a very simple question, right? He wants to know where Harvey Dent is. And so now this question, will Joker tell him or not? Then we have the stakes raise. So over here, a couple things. Batman picks him up.
Where's Dent?
You have all these rules, and you think they'll save you.
He's in control.
Right. So right there, I think the captions are a little wrong there. I think Gordon is saying he's in control. But maybe not. Let me see.
You think they'll save you.
Who's in control?
Interesting. If he's saying who's in control, that actually might be a better line. But that cutaway again, right? We have this setup early where we've got the cops standing with Joker, or excuse me, standing with Gordon. And then we go back to them as there's a raising of the stakes in the physical conflict in the scene, right? So we have this mini setup and payoff that's happening inside the scene. And then we have the big moment, right? We have our big stakes raise. And this is a hugely important point right here, right? The stakes raise. How is pressure built on the choice? This is something that writers tend to look over when they're using this scene formula, but it's so important, right? This is, you could essentially say this is the surprise problem. This is the 6 inside the scene formula.
You know, for a while there, I thought you really were, Dent. The way you threw yourself after her.
Okay, so what has just happened, right? Joker gives Batman, he gives him some new information here.
You know, for a while there, I thought you really were, Dent. The way you threw yourself after her.
So who's he talking about? He's talking about Rachel. So now Joker has just revealed it is not just Harvey who is missing. Joker has Rachel. And this is huge because this adds heavily to the emotional stakes of the story. Rachel, for Batman, is the biggest piece of the emotional stakes in the story. Harvey Dent is more on the philosophical side. Batman, Bruce Wayne, wants to be able to set down the mantle of Batman and allow Harvey Dent to govern the city in the light where Batman does not have to be involved. That's his goal. And that's how he is philosophically attached to Harvey Dent. However, he is emotionally attached to Rachel. Rachel represents the life he might have outside of Batman. And Rachel is the woman that he's been in love with for a long time. And now Joker has her. So this moment, this 6 here at our midpoint, the 6 of your Act 2, right? Your Act 2 surprise problem is going to be a hugely important beat because it is what creates the ability for you to have this dark climax, right? This big surprise problem that your character is unlikely to solve in this moment, right? This big problem is going to hit them in the face. And they might have the choice here, right? They're going to go into and they're going to do their best at the 7, but this big problem is going to smack them in the face. And so down here, the single moment that actually creates the stakes raise is where Joker tells Batman he also has Rachel. This is the most important stakes raise in the scene. This is what really takes the scene from this point where Gordon and Joker are talking and this sort of thing, and we build and we build and we build, and now we really get into the climax of the scene itself, right? The scene also has its own climax. If you don't have that stakes raise in the scene, it's hard for you to push to that moment of climax inside that single scene. Now we have the chair.
Look at you go.
And again, notice we cut back out to Gordon once again, right? This scene, everybody remembers consciously Batman and Joker in the interrogation room. But the amount of work for the scene, so much work is happening because Gordon is also here. The other cops are also here. The scene is larger because we have more characters in it. There is a tendency to write scenes with just 2 characters over and over and over and over and over again, where you've got a whole story where every single scene is just 2 characters talking to each other. You can do that, but it makes things feel so much larger and more dramatic when more characters are having to be involved in the drama that's happening, right? Gordon is kind of out of control here. He does not have the control, right? That's even what he was saying, right? Who's in control? Or if he's saying he's in control. But if it's who's in control, that's probably a better line. I always heard it as he's in control, as he's supporting Batman. But if he's saying who's in control, he's already realizing we might have a problem here, which I think is great.
Does Harvey know about you and his little bully? Where are they? Killing is making a choice. Where are they? Choose between one life or the other. Your friend, the district attorney, or his blushing bride to be.
Okay. Now, this is where we can take this and go like this and show that what is happening here is now this is essentially starting a new scene. Not yet, but what's happening in this moment is Joker is setting up the choice that Batman is going to have to make, right? Save Harvey or save Rachel, right? So now it will be Batman who does have the power of the choice, or so he thinks. He believes that he has the power to make this choice in that next scene. And so what's happening here? Again, remember, what I said was that choice is the fundamental driver of story. And so what is Joker giving Batman here?
Where are they? Killing is making a choice. Where are they? Choose between one life or the other.
Choose between one life or the other.
Your friend, the district attorney, or his blushing bride to be. You have
nothing to threaten me with. Right? Okay, so he's offering him a new choice. And then, still in this scene, that's going to be in the next scene, but still in this scene, Joker is about to fulfill the initial want from the very beginning. Batman wants Joker to give him Harvey's location. Joker tells Batman where Harvey and Rachel are, right? So he ultimately does make the choice, and like he says, that's the point.
nothing to threaten. Don't worry, I'm gonna tell you where they are. Both of them. And that's the point.
You'll have to choose.
He's at 250 52nd Street, and she's on Avenue X. That's just
Okay. So that's scene one, right? This gives us, now we are in the climactic movement, right? This is like a 10-minute sequence here. So we've got almost 5-minute scene here. Then we have the second half of this 10-minute sequence that's also about 5 minutes long that you can see here. And this creates the midpoint movement, right? It is a movement. It's not just a single scene. It is a present conflict that is pushing us forward. So this scene requires this one to happen immediately, right? There is an immediacy to the conflict that allows this to create this super action-packed, superhero style midpoint here. So now when we have scene one of the midpoint, now we have the second scene, the fulfillment scene of this midpoint, which is very simply, right? Batman wants to save Rachel. And we're going to miss the scene here because, oh wait, we have it right here.
Which one you going after?
Right, so here we go.
2nd Street, and she's on Avenue X. That's just Which one you going after? Rachel.
Okay, so Batman's going after Rachel, right? He tells us. Scene object. So this, I would say the scene object are the 55-gallon drums of gas. And you will see that very soon. So also notice, the choice presented, save Harvey or save Rachel, Batman has already made his choice here, right? He's chosen to save Rachel. He is not in conflict. He's not in dialogue with someone now, right? So you'll notice that a lot of times when it's action, you're going to have the characters moving forward, right? There's not any dialogue to have be discussed about what the choice is going to be. He's made the choice, now he's acting on that to actually make it happen. And so then you will notice that there is a stakes raise here. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about.
I won.
You also notice, and I'm a big fan of this, one of the things that Christopher Nolan does very well is we have 3 scenes happening in tandem together, all presently, all what's going on, right?
I want it. I want my phone call.
So Joker is still doing so. This is something that The Dark Knight does so well, and it's one of the reasons that the pacing of the film is so strong, and you can just hop into it and like go. Because when Batman is out here going to save Rachel, right? We've got Gordon involved in that, right? Gordon's going after Dent. Batman's going after Rachel. We have those 4 key characters all doing stuff together. The film doesn't leave Joker sitting in the interrogation room twiddling his thumbs doing nothing, right? He is also acting and doing things and moving in the same time. And that's one of the things that makes the film so strong, is that it is using so much of its core character web consistently over and over again for every major scene. And if you watch the film, you can really see this, where every major scene, you're like surprised at how many characters are actually involved. Very rarely do you have a scene that's truly just 2 characters. And even when you do have those, they are usually talking about the other main characters that are not in that scene. Like if you have a Batman and Alfred scene, rarely is it just them talking about nothing. They're talking about Rachel, or they're talking about Joker, they're talking about Harvey, they're talking about Gordon, right? So we have this playing.
How many of your friends have I killed?
Please, my insight.
We also have this going. So we have this 4th piece that's also connected to the Joker piece, but we have his henchman.
I don't really care. Back away.
The boss said he'd make.
Okay, Rachel.
Yeah, so let me start this here. This is where we see Rachel and Harvey have been connected to the 55-gallon drums that Joker has wired up.
We don't have a lot of time. They told me that only one of us was going to make it, and that they were going to let our friends choose.
Okay, Rachel. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be all right. They're coming for you.
So then a little forward, this is where the 55-gallon drums come into play, because if you've seen the movie, spoiler alert, Harvey becomes Two-Face.
Harvey, what's happening?
All available units converging to...
So we have all this play out. You can watch it if you like. We get all the way to the end, and now we have our stakes raised. The stakes have been essentially very high the whole time, but we have this stakes raise. This stakes raise is a twist.
And my answer is yes.
No! No! No, not me! Why are you coming for me?
Joker switches the addresses. Joker sends Batman to Harvey, knowing that Harvey will be saved and Rachel will die. And so, Batman saves Harvey.
Rachel! Rachel!
Harvey. Okay.
Rachel!
Harvey, it's okay. It's all right. Listen. Some...
And that is the end of the midpoint.
Rachel!
So, that is what creates this dark climax in the story. Batman believes he got what he wanted. We got the Joker. We captured him. The Big Five. Yay, he's been captured. Uh-oh, we have a problem. Harvey Dent is missing. So now we're asking Joker, where's Harvey Dent? Joker raises the stakes. He also has Rachel, and he has planned this. So the 7 is that Batman goes after Rachel to try and save her. But again, Joker is ahead of him. He knows he's going to go after Rachel. He switches the addresses so that Harvey will live. And now, finally, in the 8 of Act 2, Rachel dies. And that creates this dark climax in the story. And now we go back into this setup zone where Joker is free again, right? Joker is free once again. You get that great scene of him, like Joker in the patrol cars. This one.
Hello there.
With Lau, the Joker planned to be caught. He wanted me to lock him up in the MCU.
Living his best life. So that's the midpoint, right? And what you're doing here is, if you're going to have this final climax, because Act 4, if we beat out our story circle like this, 5, 6, 7, 8, we have our final climax. You could also just place it up here for simplicity. We have our final climax, right? And this is where Batman wins, where Joker is captured for real, and all of this. When you want to get to this light climax, you want to send your audience on the journey of both sides, right? You want to send them all the way down into the depths of the dark adventure so that they can come out the other side and win, right? That's what you want to show. And so when I'm talking about stuff like philosophical conflict, and I'm saying your story has side A, side B, right? This could be lie, truth. This can be belief 1, belief 2, right? They are connected. They are not separate beliefs. They are the heads and tails of the coin, right? They are connected in this way. And so what you're doing is you are sending the audience through both sides fully, right? You're kind of going like this. You're allowing the story to touch both sides deeply. So a lot of times when I'm working with writers, what happens is they come in with a sense of one side, right? They know the truth they want to express. They know the argument they want to make. But the difficulty is coming back to the other side and saying, okay, how do I really create depth and honesty and the argument for the side that I don't agree with? Because by doing so, and then by taking that argument and placing it into the story, allowing that villain to really have his day, right? This is where Joker has his day. This is where he's on top. That is what makes the final climax much more powerful. So if you have a strong final climax, it simply makes sense that you want a strong dark climax, and that usually is going to be your midpoint. I discussed yesterday in the live stream that you can invert this if you want to have a darker arc, where you have your character starts off in the darker point, and then the midpoint, is the good climax, right? Where it seems like they've figured things out, things are going to go well, and then something happens that sends them back into the darkness, and then you have this sort of fall arc or corruption arc, these kinds of things. And so that's the inverted. You could almost go like this and say, this is the dark part down here. Our hero arc is dark midpoint, final climax up in the light. And then if you have a villain, it would be the inversion of this. So you have a light midpoint and a dark climax. This could be a villain. It could also be like a fall arc. Like, there's many ways to think about this. But that's one of the ways that you can think about it. I would also say maybe like a corruption arc would be a little bit different. A corruption arc might be your hero starts up here. They never make it up here for the final climax. They have some sort of final climax in the dark somewhere here maybe. And then they end up staying in the darkness, which is kind of what we saw with Stevenson's story from a couple of days ago when he brought that one forward. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but yeah, that's essentially how it works. All right, let me catch up with some of the questions here. Let me check the YouTube chat. Obro, could you break down 12 Angry Men? Let me know what specifically you're looking for. But I do like that movie a lot. So Neil is talking about the ticking clock and stakes. There's a ticking clock. If Batman fails, Dent is dead. Yes, there is a ticking clock in the scene. And yes, if Batman fails, initially the stakes are that if Batman fails, Dent is dead. But then the stakes raise, like I discussed here, where Joker tells Batman that he also has Rachel, and that ups the stakes because that is a more important character for Batman. The face slam is epic. Definitely is. Richard, I'm using webwhiteboard.com. Okay, so Mary's asking a good question here. She asks, so is the hero's darkest moment at the midpoint? I thought it would be later on, the Dark Night of the Soul, right before the climax. Very, very good question. Let me explain this. We'll just come out here. So the midpoint is not actually the darkest moment necessarily. It can be, but it's the climax in the dark, if that makes sense. So what's happening? Oops. We have our midpoint here. This is our midpoint climax, but this is not the darkest part. What usually happens is the character is pretty jazzed up here in Act 1, right? We're doing this. Things are going all right. Act 2, things are getting intense, but we're handling it, right? We're still on the side of the lie, so your character thinks, I'm in control here. I'm going to get us through this. When you have the huge problem that comes at this midpoint, right, where we have for the circle inside of Act 2, 6, 7, 8, this point here, huge problem. And this throws our character off track, right? This is Rachel dies. This is a huge moment. But this Act 3, this is where you usually have like most frustration, most confusion. Right? Because this is after your character has gotten smacked in the face with reality here. Right? They've gotten hit with the truth in a way that hurts them a lot. That's what Joker does. He smacks Batman with a realization that, hey, you don't know what you're dealing with. You have no idea who I am. You have no idea what I'm capable of. You don't understand my worldview. And now we're sent into this world where this is the winter of the story, right? I also talked about that a day or two ago, where we have, like, this is the summer, this is the fall, and then the fall climaxes essentially it's the turn from fall into winter, right? Things go from bad to worse. And so what happens is you have this climax of, I can save this, I can do this, I can make things okay, we can still be in spring and summer, we can handle this now, we don't have to go through the winter. But nope, winter comes, and now this is where your character is the most confused. So in The Dark Knight, Act 3 has really picked up the pace once again. Act 3 in The Dark Knight is where Joker goes to blow up the hospital, and he goes and he meets Harvey in the hospital. And so from like a momentum perspective, because this is an action movie, the story really does keep up its momentum. However, this is where this winter, this is the space where Harvey fully becomes Two-Face. So in this dark part of the story, in our winter, in our deepest darkness, Harvey becomes Two-Face. Over here, we were just dealing with Joker, right? But now, in this act, in the winter act, in the dark act, Joker has corrupted the White Knight, right? Batman is the Dark Knight. Harvey is supposed to be the White Knight. Instead, he becomes a villain. And that's what we see that's what happens here. So when we're talking about Dark Night of the Soul, people have placed that in random different points in the story. There is a point of sadness or darkness at different points. And I think that this is going to be a huge point of sadness, darkness, this kind of thing. It doesn't have to be slow. It doesn't have to be a slow act. This is definitely not a slow act in The Dark Knight. A lot of stuff's happening. But the darkness is the fact that this is where Harvey is going from the midpoint, and then he wakes up. Now he is becoming Two-Face. And then after the Joker visits him, he is now actively going to kill the cops that were responsible for Rachel's death. Therefore, he fully becomes Two-Face here. Now, just like how each of these acts have their own story circle, right? Because an act is a story. 6, 7, 8. When we're looking at our Act 4, this is our climactic act, right? This is going to be our final act where the world is righted again and we win the day. A lot of times your Dark Night of the Soul can come here and can sometimes come here depending. Right? These are going to be your problem points again at the very end. So when you're talking about problem point 1, and then we have our surprise problem here. So when you're saying, where do I put this supposed Dark Night of the Soul? I think from a big perspective, Act 3 is your darkest act in the sense of things are getting even worse. We have this midpoint climax. We thought we were going to handle things, but nope, they're getting worse. Harvey becomes Two-Face. That is the most important thing that defines Act 3 in this film, and it is the dark element of the act. Then, when we come up into here, you could have a moment of sadness at your inciting incident for Act 3 or Act 4 if you wanted to. You could also have some sort of moment of, we have totally failed and lost. This is what you'll usually feel here, right? At that moment of total failure right before we win in the climax. And so that probably is not going to feel like a slow moment, because this will literally be within like all the 5, 6, 7, 8. This is all the climactic movement in Act 4. So it will more feel like we're totally failing, we're not going to win, rather than a dark night of the soul. Your dark moments are going to be here. And that's kind of what we see in this. Which one? Where is it at? Batman, Rachel's death. Yeah, here. So this is definitely a dark moment for the story. This is also kind of the 8 here, though. So after Rachel dies, we have this breath. We have this moment of pause that is essentially right here in like the block of the story, right? Right after this midpoint conflict. And this is where this is kind of re-energizing. It's a super sad moment, and it's also re-energizing Batman's desire to grab Joker.
Hope it does. And if it does, I will be there. But as your friend,
I'm sorry, Harvey.
I'm sorry to let you down.
Very well then.
Yes, Bruce Wayne.
Did I bring this on her? I was meant to inspire good, not madness, not death.
You have inspired good, but you spat in the faces of Gotham's criminals. Didn't you think there might be some casualties? Things were always going to get worse before they got better.
But Rachel, Alfred,
Rachel believed in what you stood for. What we stand for. Gotham needs you.
no, Gotham needs its true hero. And I let that murdering psychopath blow him half to hell.
Which is why, for now, they're going to have to make do with you.
She was gonna wait for me, Alfred.
So this is this moment of sadness here. So in many ways, I would say this is Batman's. I don't know where I might place it for all films, but for Batman specifically, this is his Dark Night of the Soul right here. And I think that's a pretty good spot for it, in the sense that it's right after your character has just gotten absolutely smacked in the face by the dark climax of the story. And so to me, that makes the most sense for it to be right there. And again, this scene, okay, I want to highlight this, because this scene, it seems like we're all chill, we're relaxed, and obviously it's a somber moment, but there's not tons of conflict here, right? However, there is still a scene in all of this going on. Alfred wants to give Bruce the letter from Rachel that she wrote before she died, and we hear that letter read aloud, and it's essentially her saying, hey, I'm going to marry Harvey Dent. I'm not waiting for you like I said I was. We're not going to be together, essentially. And so then in this scene, Alfred makes a choice, right? Even in this scene where it's really about the emotion of what all has just happened, there is still a scene choice. And we watch it happen right here.
Dad doesn't know.
Here, I'm going to back up.
They're going to have to make do with you.
She was gonna wait for me, Alfred. Dad doesn't know. He can never know. What's that?
It can wait.
Boom. Alfred just made a choice. Bruce Wayne says, she was going to wait for me. Dent can never know. Bruce is clearly in deep grief over Rachel's passing. And so Alfred decides, you know what? Now is not the time for him to read this letter being told, hey, I'm actually not going to wait for you. So he makes the choice to take the letter. And it's a scene object. And we show that choice in this moment, even though there's all this other stuff going. And then right out, like, the choice is meant to be subtle here because Bruce Wayne, Batman, is not focused on it. And that's kind of Alfred's whole thing, right? That he is able to make decisions around Bruce knowing what he needs at any given time. And then we go right back to main conflict at the end of the scene.
That bandit in the forest in Burma. Did you catch him?
Yes.
How?
We burned the forest down.
We burned the forest down. And so, boom, right? That moment, that line, it's so well written. Because that line is now sending us, hey, we're getting back on track here, right? Like, it's wartime still. We're still going after this guy. And so, boom. Now we're out of this moment of reflection, out of this moment of sadness, and we're going back into the hunt for Joker. So hopefully that was helpful, Mary. Mary's asking, so that Act 4, even though it's the spring season, will have the greatest question of will they succeed or fail? Yes, because the question still is, are we getting to this climax? Are we going to actually pull through all the way to the end? Abigail asks, I'm a film major about to graduate. Would you say that you have to move to LA to become a screenwriter? I want to write for television. So I'm an interesting person to ask this question, especially since I no longer live in Los Angeles. I think if you want to work for the traditional Hollywood industry, it can help you to be in LA. However, I don't know if that industry is really as open and easy to get into as it used to be. Now people talk about, oh, it's never been easier. I didn't feel that at all when I was living there. I don't think it is that easy to get in. I also think that there are I think that screenwriting was awesome and was an awesome thing to get into, especially like industry screenwriting, like before the 2008 writer strike. But I think the 2008 writer strike combined with internet eyeballs has had a really radical effect on the studio writing industry as a whole. A lot, like I lived in Burbank, so I lived in the city where the studios are and where the people who work for the studios live. And there's writers who live in Burbank, and there's crew who live in Burbank. Like the Pixar offices that Michael Arndt worked at were in Burbank, I believe, pretty sure. And so word on the street was essentially a lot of Hollywood writers were not really getting work these days because they have continued to close down and close down and close down how the industry is working. And I think that's happened through internet stuff, because I think eyeballs are now on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and 1,000 other places than just the theater or, and also like cable TV is no longer as big as it used to be, right? Like the younger generations are not watching cable TV. And so a lot of those writing jobs were held up by cable TV, right? Because you had huge shows that had very consistent schedules, that had huge audiences where people would know every Thursday at 8 p.m. this show comes on, right? And we were all watching it together, and there's nothing else to watch. There's not all these other different things we could go and see. And so I think because cable TV is on its downturn, and because of the 2008 writer strike, where the world of writers having a spec script and selling that spec script for like 400 grand or 700 grand or these like real big price points, that was a lot bigger really it's kind of two things, right? The recession in 2008, and the reason that the writer strike happened in 2008 was not because the writers happened to pick 2008 2007 to be the time to have a strike. No, it was all about the money. And so because the economy was crashing, the studios create these writer strikes. The writer strikes are not these organic things that just, oh, wow, there's a writer strike. No, it's not what happens. And so they create a writer strike to essentially pause contracts and pause all of these things. And then they come back and they say, okay, here's all the new rules about how you're going to make less money in this industry. That's what happens with the writer strike. The writer strikes are never good, ever good. And so, not that I'm not saying the studios are great and lovely. They create the writer strike, so they play both sides. But after the 2008 writer strike, this is also where you saw the explosion in reality TV as well, because people were like, well, we're going to make something, and we're not going to wait around for these big writing contracts. So they started making reality TV. And that's also where you see huge stars like Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump are born specifically out of that writer strike, out of that recession, out of that time period. And so I think a lot of it is a lot of the old ways of doing things are the pre 2008 ways of doing things. I see Adult Human Female is saying, but they still have $200 million to spend on a single Marvel movie. Correct. Yes, they do. So here's what's happened. This middle class, let's say, of films where you had like a crazy sci-fi movie get made for $25 million, or some other kind of like new IP that hasn't been seen before get made for $18 million, and it's got Brad Pitt and a couple other named actors in it, and it's a big thing. Those types of movies are happening less and less and less. And the writing for those types of movies is getting worse and worse and worse, because all of the talent from now, what would have been almost 2 decades of hungry, creative people wanting to be involved in an industry, well, they are no longer incentivized to do that. So what happened, to my perspective, is you have this moment in history where, boom, the writer strikes happen, all these rules are changed, all these producers that were greenlighting these huge spec script buys, they all get fired, and you have this restructuring of how the industry works, and it makes the incentives for up-and-coming writers to enter into that industry, it's way less interesting, because it's like, okay, well, if I can't really make any money, or I can't be the guy to work on a script for 3 years and then sell it for 400 grand, and then suddenly I've got my now I've got a movie getting made, and now I'm in the industry, blah, blah, blah. That sort of stuff started to die. And so a lot of people were like, okay, well, I guess we'll just go do something else, like go work in Silicon Valley, or get on YouTube, or do these other things that weren't the Hollywood film industry. So now we are now really seeing the effects of decisions that were made years and years ago, because now we're saying, oh no, like this whole crop of people that would have been going into this space is not going in there. And also there is no more space for the people that are already there, because cable is really gone. The shift into streaming by the studios, I don't think has really played good for them, in the sense of keeping the cultural conscious on what they want them to focus on. So I would personally say that like I would recommend you take more of a first principles view on these things. And if you are someone that is a storyteller and you want to work this kind of thing, looking for the exact system to go into is way harder right now. Like if you're trying to go back into this pre-internet world of 2004 where we're making movies like that. I mean, obviously the internet was around in 2004, but you know what I mean. That world really isn't here anymore. They like to talk and act like it is still here because it's the mental headspace that all of Hollywood still tries to live in. It's funny. You should see some of the people that you meet out in Hollywood that still have this like 2006 mentality that they still think they're in that world. It's very interesting. But that's not the world we're in anymore. So, here's what I would say, right? If you're like, you know what, I'm still totally determined, still doing this. I'm going to go, no matter what you say, I want to write for TV. Okay, cool. Then you need to gain individual connections with individual people, right? There is no Indeed.com application for being a writer at something, right? That's not how it works. The entire game, the entire industry game is who you know. That is the entire game, and it is set up that way so that the people that they know can kind of bring in the people that they also want in, and the people that they don't know and don't really want in stay outside, right? That's how it works. So if you want to work inside, if you want to write for TV, this kind of thing, you need to find individual human beings you can contact, right? Like, how are you actually building your network, and what can you offer these people to actually help you? Because, yeah. Bill is asking me about pinch points. Pinch points is something that I have thought about less and less recently. There's a writer that I've worked with who he worked with me a lot on my understanding of concept, especially concept and set pieces and these kinds of things. And he also had some stuff to say about pinch points, and I believe he wrote the pinch points video that we have on the channel. I don't know if, like, I really don't think about it in terms of pinch points as much. I just think about it in terms of, I've got my story circle, or let's say I've got my feature here. Let me do this. Yeah, for sure, Abigail. Glad to be of help. Be careful of Hollywood. I mean that sincerely. So if I have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, right? It comes down to what are you asking is a pinch point? So if you're talking about your break into Act 4 or your break into 2, right? Like these points here. If that's what you're talking about, these are simply act climaxes. Act climax, right? These are going to be the climax of Act 1 happens here, right? This is your midpoint. This is your big middle climax, and this is your final climax. So obviously these are your two big climaxes, but you have 4 climaxes ultimately in a story. You have the climax of your Act 1 and the climax of your Act 3, and then your midpoint climax and your final climax. Another way that you've probably seen this described is that this whole section in the middle is your Act 2, and then this is your Act 3, and this is your Act 1. But then they still say you have a midpoint here, and then you have a midpoint climax, and then you have your break into 2 and your break into 3. That's kind of how Sid Field describes it in Screenplay, but these are just climaxes, right? So what is a climax? Climax is your character gets what they wanted, 5, but then encounters a surprise problem in that moment, right? Oh my gosh, Joker has Rachel, and then we have our climactic choice, right? So these, your 5, 6, 7 always create your climactic movement. That's what's going on here. And so then your midpoint's going to have a 5, 6, 7. Your act 3 climax is going to have a 5, 6, 7, and then your final climax is going to have a 5, 6, 7. And that's essentially what you're doing there. So, Bill, I think that's the clearest way to think about this. And then if you want to go deeper, you have, your sort of problem, right? Your inciting incident is going to be that 3, right? We have our inciting incident in Act 1. Inciting incident. But then you kind of have, each act kind of has its own inciting incident, right? We kind of have that here, have it here. So these are all 3s, right? 3, 3, 3. And then they all lead into the particular climax. So you're going to have a 4, right? You're going to have your initial choice. Okay, how have things gone? And then around here, you'll have your 5, and we go up. Boom, 5, we go up. Boom, 5, go up. 5, go up. Right? So usually you're 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1 character. 2, want. 3, I'm going to say inciting problem. 4, choice action to solve that problem. 5, get want. 6, surprise problem. 7, climactic choice. 8, change. So the 1 through 4, this is going to take up more time each of the acts, right? So your 1 through 4 is going to take up more time, usually. Because the 5 through 8, it happens faster because this is the climax, right? So when we're going through that climax, it's happening at a faster pace. Therefore, it will likely take less scenes and happen more in a sense of it feels all at once. And then the setup, the 1 through 4, will happen earlier on in the story. Miko, yes, if you want to send your story document that uses one of my frameworks in the Discord, join the Discord, hop into the Livestream stage chat, and then in the top right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see the chat specifically for the Livestream stage inside the Discord. And if you come in there and then raise your hand, we can definitely work on it. All right, I see Stevenson has his hand raised. I'm going to bring him up.
Hello.
What's going on?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Good.
Woke up not too long ago. I came in late. I thought I missed the stream for a second.
We're still here.
But I'm good. Well, great. Okay, I don't know how much time you have left, but I actually had a favor to ask. One of which you might be able to do on screen. Oh, no, not on screen, on stream, but you might not be able to because, you might not have time. Because I know it's like 12:21 where I'm at.
What's the favor?
Well, I had a short film that I think it's like 6 minutes long.
Okay.
And I was hoping you could like react to it and review it, see like where it could have been better or where it gone wrong and like in the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping that you could do a breakdown of the short using your practical story framework.
Sure.
The short version of it.
Yeah, let's do it.
We done today?
Yeah.
Again, like you could do this on your own time. I don't want to.
No,
Because
yeah,
I know you're very busy.
let's do it. Drop it in the chat. Let's take a look.
All right. I appreciate you doing this.
For sure.
Let me send the link. All right. Here you go.
Okay.
But I advise, just in case, like, to avoid any potential like copyright, to like pause like the short film in between the reaction, like fair use, just in case. I think it's safe to watch and react to.
I think we'll be okay on shorts. It's usually any movies by the studios that are the biggest ones that get grabbed, but I think we'll be okay. Let me grab a version of my short script framework as well. We'll get set up here. One moment. Okay. Here. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at this short. Okay. So the moral of the story is bros before hoes. The moral of the story is don't fight your boys over strange women in the woods, I think is the moral there. Okay, from a story circle perspective, I don't think they kind of don't really get what they want. I would say we've got our two characters, so we got big guy and small guy. I guess they want to catch the fox, right? That's kind of what they're trying to do. And then the problem is the woman comes and, you know, the woman comes by. And then they both want the woman, so they choose to fight each other. And then essentially they fight and fight and fight and fight. And then they really don't get the woman. Don't get the woman. End of short.
Oh, and by the way, I was laughing also. My mic was off for a second. I was laughing out loud with your moral of the story. It's pretty much that's pretty much the moral.
Yeah, I think that's the moral. I don't know if this is a full thing here. I think if I was gonna I don't know if it's a full story in the sense of does it go through a full story circle? I think there really is just one choice, right? The woman comes by, so they both want to fight each other for the woman. I think if you wanted to make it a full story, maybe you had a point where one of them wins, maybe gets the fox/woman in some way, but then surprise problem is fox/woman betrays him, and then maybe realizes things were great with his buddy he betrayed, and then, you know, let's say makes up with his buddy, and they maybe, I don't know, catch the fox together, or fox escapes, but they're not totally destroyed, but the hunters are hunting again, something like that. Who knows? And now, you know, they've learned the value of friendship or something. I'm not sure. But something like that I would probably do if I was going to say the theoretical second half. And that's the thing I see a ton with shorts, is that they really are the first half of a story a lot of the times, right? Like we have this big fight that takes place between these characters, and they have this huge, big climactic fight back and forth, but ultimately it doesn't, they don't make a second choice, right? They make the first choice, which is, oh, the woman comes by, we're fighting. And so that's the first choice. And then there is no second choice ever made. It's just we fight until we are literally exhausted, and the fox runs away. Stupid men is the theme of the short.
Oh, and I have, hold on. I put in the log line of the short. I want to see how what you thought about that and how that could be improved.
Yeah, let me grab this log line. That's great to add. Thanks, Stevenson. Wait, how do I, is it control shift? There we go. Okay. In the heart of ancient China. Oh, two brothers. Okay. So it's two brothers fighting over. Okay. Interesting. That does add a little context. Brother one, brother two, they both choose to fight each other. Yeah. So then I would say they've learned the value of brotherhood instead of friendship. In my possible new end, right? Where they actually have an arc and they're not just bumbling fools as they are in this short. So in the heart of ancient China, two brothers are hunting fox. This mad journey will have them face treason, bravery, hatred, and love. Okay.
This is the official log line.
So this half of the log line here, I think is pretty poor. This mad journey will have them face treason, bravery, hatred, and love. That tells us very, very little about what's actually going on here. So I would probably not have this at all. But to start up here, in the heart of ancient China, two brothers are hunting a fox. So we have, so to get our pieces, we got main character, inciting incident, goal, stakes. Main character, two brothers, inciting incident. So this is just two brothers are hunting a fox. I would say something like they encounter the mysterious woman. Obviously, that's kind of like giving away part of the short. However, I think it's necessary. And then the brothers must fight for the woman, you know, or risk losing her, essentially, something like that. So that would kind of be my starting point. So I might do a version that's like when two, and I also might say hunters. I might say when two fox hunters encounter a mysterious, beautiful, like what, jungle woman, they must fight each other for the like for her hand, let's say, or risk her disappearing into the woods forever, something like that. I think that's a bit more of a, and so
It's a better and more solid starting point.
Yeah, I would personally say. And so let me combine this with the original one. Okay, so I would say, so let's see what I can grab here. So let's say Heart of Ancient China. Let's try to add that. In the Heart of Ancient China, two fox hunters encounter a mysterious, beautiful woman. Or maybe I say when, in the heart of ancient China, when two fox hunters encounter a mysterious, beautiful woman, they must fight each other for her hand. So, and then, yeah, after these two pieces, which I've covered, Heart of Ancient China, two fox hunters, I have this. The rest of this is essentially not useful at all, because it's not really a journey. They say this mad journey. It's not a journey. They're just in a fight scene from, like, this point forward. And then we'll have them face treason, bravery, hatred, and love. All of this is buzzwords to add to a log line that doesn't make sense. So this whole second piece of the log line is essentially unusable. So from there, I'm adding in a goal, and I'm trying to add in stakes here and say, okay, they encounter the beautiful woman. That's our inciting incident, not the fact that they're fox hunters, right? The three is that they encounter this beautiful woman. So they must fight each other for her hand or risk her disappearing into the woods forever. I think that's a pretty good starting point. That would be my version. Now,
sorry, go ahead.
You might also say, oh, this is the whole short. And I would say yes, because there's not a second half to it. If you built in a second half, like you built in what I was talking about here, where you actually have a climactic half of the act, then there would be more hidden from the log line. But right now, it's pretty clear. And so then you have this is our main character. This is our inciting incident. I'm just making these different colors and then they must fight each other for her hand. I don't remember which colors I used, but in the original log line video, but this will work. And then we can do, I don't know. Oh, that's awful.
So in the
Oh,
story,
yeah.
you'll say one of the issues, besides the one you stated, is that despite the short having a moral, it lacks a philosophical conflict.
I don't think it. I think it has a. It has an external and an emotional conflict. I don't think it has. I think if you wanted to really round out a philosophical conflict, it would be about like brotherhood versus this woman they both want, right? So you have like desire for a woman versus, like desire for a woman versus brotherhood. I would say that is the understanding that they're two brothers as well. That is the philosophical conflict from my perspective. And then in this version of the story, desire for a woman wins out. They kill each other for this woman. She takes neither of them. She leaves them in the dirt. And they have also destroyed their brotherhood. So the ending of the short is a little... it's kind of dark, It's not a great... not the happiest ending.
Sorry.
So
Facts.
So yeah, if you were gonna have it be an uplifting ending, and they kind of come back around and they realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't immediately turn on each other at the first glance of a woman, then they can learn the value of brotherhood, and we can have a full circle, right? It actually, that's the idea, right? Is that it actually comes full circle. But here we have kind of the first half.
Hey, you or I forgot what it's called in your framework, but for the lack of a better term, the setting would be China, obviously, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so as for set pieces, if you're talking about that, we've got this initial set piece of the trap that never comes back. Again, I think if there was a second half of the story, we could do a little bit more with the trap. However, the apple does come back because the woman eats the apple. And then a lot of this is like, the setting is not super... we don't see the same settings multiple times. This is also interesting, is that the fox kind of goes to this watering hole, right? Jumps in, and then magically becomes the woman here, right? And so I think it would be interesting, maybe even again, is if you had a second half of this short, they might come back to this magical pond that we have. Because I think that's a huge portion of this that could be interesting for the second half. And then, yeah, we kind of go back into more unspecified jungle setting. And then we go into the bamboo setting where they have their initial fight. And then notice, so here, this is kind of just a fun structural thing that you can take a look at. Maybe she has a sister. That's a good idea. They can have two foxes. They take another fox. I see adult human female said this in the chat. They take another fox, put it in the water too, and now they can both have their fox women.
Oh shoot! No, no, no.
But look here. Notice that we're at the midpoint of the story, right? We're 3 minutes 22 seconds in, and like we're almost directly at the midpoint here. Notice that they are doing the same thing at the midpoint that they're doing in the climax, right? There's no difference here. So we have this. Okay, cool. We're doing this big fight, and this big fight is taking us through the whole rest of the story, right? So from minute 3 to, or 3:30 here to 5:30, 2 whole minutes of a 7-minute short, really a 6-minute short, 2 whole minutes are dedicated to them fighting. So this is an example where, right, notice even what they're saying, CGI animated short film, they are mainly showing off their ability to animate 3D characters, not their ability to tell a super strong story, which is totally okay, right? Like I'm not hating on them for that. But I would say, like, even look at how they've laid this out, right? We're a lot of that, boom, 3D modeling, animation. We're all talking about how we built the thing, right? So,
because that's
Mhm.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it because that's more their purpose
Mhm.
to show that they can animate that 3 CGI format than telling a more compelling story.
Totally. And
So
they
this one,
do a good job.
oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
They do a good job. I mean, it looks gorgeous, right? Like they have achieved their animation desires. It looks excellent.
Mm-hmm. So as a short story, this is a solid short film in terms of animation, entertainment. Uh, if the creators want to tell a compelling story, that's where it fails at.
I would suggest they build the second half out if they wanted to tell a full story here. Right now, this feels like they threw down an idea and they have the first half of a story and they wanted to make sure it was around 6 minutes for their animated short, and that's what they created. So if they wanted to really build that out, it would come into the second half here. How do they actually get a moment to self-reflect, and do they, because in this short they don't even have the opportunity to make a second choice. They make the first choice, which is, oh, we're fighting each other over this woman. They never get a secondary choice. She essentially disappears throughout their entire fight, and then once they're both fully exhausted, she kind of comes back, gloats a little bit, short over.
And so, in other short film that you showed and broke down, I think it's called The Life of Death, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we would say in terms of story, that one is more superior to this one.
I would say so, because The Life of Death actually goes through a full story circle. So let's take a look at The Life of Death.
Also, because it's more meaningful as well.
I mean, I think this other short could absolutely be meaningful. I don't think it's without meaning. I think it's just missing its second half. Like if it actually had a full story to it, choice, want achieved, surprise problem, climactic choice, change. Okay. Let's take a look at The Life of Death here. Okay. So here's the circle for that short. First, we have our character. Character is death. Now, what's happening immediately? 15 seconds in, what are we seeing? We're seeing that death is doing his normal duties of sending animals into their next life, right? Passing them on, right? So death wants to pass the animals on, right? This is his purpose. This is what he's doing on a day-to-day basis. Until he encounters, right? We see multiple scenes of this. And then here, he encounters the deer. So notice he's thinking, right? Now he has a choice. He has a choice in front of him. Am I going to pass this deer forward or not? Right? See how we're in this choice moment? See how we're in this space of the whole purpose of his hand extending out is he has this choice. Do I take this action? Do I take the life of the deer or not? We're in the 4 here, right? We're in the 3 and the 4. He encounters the deer and now he has a choice to make about that. And the deer's not scared of him. The deer is unbothered, but then decides to go. He's choosing not to kill the deer. Death chooses to let the deer live. And ultimately, now, because of this is where we have, this might cause some confusion for some people, but Death now befriends the deer, right? So in this, Death is actually going through a flat arc. So because of this, you'll notice that his initial desire, right, who he is, again, so he's Death, right? So this is fun. Let's go back into here. Where's my... So he's Death. What does this mean? We have this inverted story circle here. Right? So what happens is the 5, right, when he gets what he wants, he gets friendship with the deer at the midpoint. Friendship with the deer at this midpoint, right? So he starts up here. He starts in the darkness, right? He starts passing the animals on. Then he encounters the deer. Chooses not to pass her on. And now we enter into the 5. Kind of here forward is essentially the 5. And we get a lot of scenes in this 5. So we have kind of the first big scene here. This is really the we're now becoming friends, where Death comes up to the deer at night, makes the final choice not to take the life of the deer. Lays down beside the deer, and we go forward. And so now we have multiple scenes that are the friendship with the deer here. Multiple scenes. We're frolicking in the woods. We're in the 5. Friendship with the deer. We're drinking by the pond. Again, friendship with the deer. Covering the deer in the rain. Some more friendship with the deer. Right, all these pieces are. We're watching the moon together. Hanging out in winter. And now this is our 6 right here. This is where deer is old now. Her time has come. And this problem sets Death up for his climactic choice. So this is actually, it's kind of a, yeah. So now he's going to make the opposite choice that he made here, right? He's going to be going back to what he usually does, right? As expressed by the 2. But at the 4 here, he made an opposite choice, right? He chose not to pass the deer on. Now we're at the climax. We are at the pivotal problem right here. And now he has a new choice, right? Is he going? See, even without any sound, without anything, just visually, you understand exactly what the choice is here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then hugs deer, showing that they have love between each other. And then he does pass the deer on. Now, Death returns to his normal life.
That's where he first started.
Back to where he first started, passing animals on.
Would you say that Death's like his want changed midway through the story?
That's a good question. I think because of this 3, he does have a change in what he wants, and that's why he makes a different choice here.
Okay.
So this is also where he might have been, looking for friendship internally, and we don't know. But what the 2 is, a lot of times, this is expressing his normal life, right? What he's doing on a day-to-day, so that we understand that when he encounters this deer, it's been set up what he normally does, right? We use this as our initial setup, what he normally does. Then he encounters the deer, makes a choice that is opposite the setup, gains friendship with the deer. We spend a lot of the short in this 5, and then we enter into our climactic movement, which takes place through the 6 and the 7 here.
What would you say would be the log line for this short?
That's a good question. Let's see.
Oh, and by the way, Joseph in the Discord chat, he reminded you what the log line colors are.
Oh, okay, sweet. So we've got Death as our main character. Death encounters the deer. Man, the goal and the stakes here, though, I'm not sure about. He must... I don't know, make friends with the deer. And then, what are the stakes? There's not really... There's no stakes to their friendship, I don't think. I'm not sure what the log line is. I would have to give that some thought.
I'm trying to look at the log line right now too, so that way you can I could possibly help you out.
Yeah, if you can find a log line for it, let me know. Be interested to see what they think.
Post it right now.
Stakes loses friend,
kinda
loses
two of them.
opportunity to love life. Yeah. I think that there can be some truth to that idea. He must make friends with the deer before he loses his opportunity to love life. Yeah, it could be something like that. So when death encounters a deer, he must make friends with the deer before he loses his opportunity to fall in love with life. Something that like that may work.
Oh no, I posted the log lines in the chat.
Okay, so their log line. So here's my log line version 1, and then the official log line is deep in an impenetrable and eerie forest. Death, a shadowy creature like none other, roams the pathless landscape, yearning for the elusive feeling of love. So, definitely this is good. Yearning for the elusive feeling of love. I think it's showing what is going on in the story. I don't know if we need shadowy creature like none other if we already have all of this description as well. Like maybe deep in an eerie forest. Death. Yeah, we also, so this doesn't have an inciting incident, which I think would be really good to see in here. Like death encounters the deer. Yeah, I mean, my logline is very clearly like the clinical version right now. So I think there would definitely be a version somewhere in between. But it's definitely about falling in love with life. I think, yearning for the elusive feeling of love. That's definitely what's going on here. You're getting some noise through your mic, Steven. But yeah, I'm not. I could really. Let me try to give this one final shot here. So let's use their deep in an eerie forest. Death. I don't think we need to describe it. Let's see. Roams the pathless. Death yearns for elusive feeling of love and. But no, that should be the stakes portion. Loses his opportunity to fall in love with life. I think that's really clear. Deep in an eerie forest, when death encounters a deer, he must make friends with the deer before he loses his opportunity to fall. Yeah, I kind of like my version. I'm sticking with it. I'm gonna do it that way. All right. Thanks for hopping on, Stevenson. This was really good. I'm glad that you brought forward a few of these shorts. I think that's been really helpful for us today. I want to get over to our cat friend, Hamill. And I saw there was also a document in there. Yes, there is. Okay, let me invite you to speak. Hello, hello.
Hello, hi.
What's going on? How are you?
Good. Okay, so there I sent the document. I haven't finished it yet. Like I was doing the section before the chess moves. Like I was putting things in order before the chess moves.
Sure.
All right, so here I have the log line. So I have set at this point the log line, the main character, the beliefs are all the 4 main characters of this season, and I still have to create more characters, and and develop the set pieces for each episode.
Okay. So what specifically are you looking for help on today?
All right. Okay. It will be for the set pieces for each episode,
Okay.
basically.
Okay. So just to give some people some context on the story that you're working on, after her home continent has initially been attacked, a vengeful warrior with elemental blood powers will fight the war to defeat the invaders before they, using their elemental power over animals, reconquer all of the land that was once part of their empire. So you almost have like an avatar, multiple kingdoms of elemental power in conflict with each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, exactly.
And then remind me a bit of your philosophical conflict.
Okay. In the part of setting up the chessboard, okay, right, beliefs. Okay, so basically, the belief one or the lie is basically one. It basically us versus them mentality. So basically thinking that the other side of the war is beyond redemption, or that they are bad, so you have to destroy the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the second belief or truth is basically that history is really complicated, and basically both sides have good and bad, and they have to unite uh, 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 instead of letting hate destroy each other.
Cool.
Okay, so basically those are the two beliefs. So okay, and the form of this externalization is through the powers. Basically the dominant world is the are the two sides. Basically, one side has the power of blood, and the other side has the power of animals. But both are of the dominant world. But the underdog value of character is basically the people that have both powers. Basically, people that are a mix of both powers.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they have the potential to unite the nations, and they have the potential to heal the world.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay, And the thing is that the protagonist, uh, even though she is a mixed one, even though she has this mixed power, she doesn't want it because she only wants to be attached to one side, because the side in which she was born to,
Mm-hmm.
and she despises the other side inside of her. So basically, even though she has both powers and a third power, she only uses one. Because she thinks that if she uses the second power, the power of animals, or the mixed power that gives her powers, or that gives her, or she uses the third power, then she will be betraying her country and her people. So basically, even though she has that potential to unite, she hates that. She hates the other side. So basically, she only uses one power instead of using all of them.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay.
Okay.
So we have the two main different worlds, right? We have kind of the you have the blood power world and you have the animal power world, correct?
Okay. Yeah. Right. But in essence, the underworld the underdog character or the underdog value is the one of unity.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the dominant value is the value that both nations have. That basically the other side is completely evil and they have to destroy each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so basically, in this story, it's not like one side has one belief and the other nation has the second belief. No, both sides have the hate narrative belief.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the lesson the protagonist has to learn in order to save the world or to heal the world is to accept the good and bad of both nations, accept the good and bad inside of her, and heal the world.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I have the key characters. The main one is Flor. So basically, she is the protagonist. That she has, in theory, she has those powers, but at the start of the story, she only uses one, at the power of blood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so basically the thing is that she thinks that the wicked must be destroyed in order to protect the innocent. Uh, 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 and it is to her want in the series is to destroy Harbor, basically the other nation, and everything associated with it. Uh, so basically, she hates the nation, and she also hates the power of animals because it's associated to that nation. And that's the reason why she doesn't use that power, even though she could.
What's interesting at your need here, you have make peace with her heritage, which has roots in both, and she currently considers purely wicked or innocent. I think you want to make her heritage in the abstract a particular character that she has to make peace with that represents that heritage, and I think that will make the need even stronger. Maybe it's her father or mother or grandparents or someone that she is blood related to.
That would be a good idea. That would be a really good idea. And yeah, because because in all this time I was trying to figure out why she has this belief. In all this time because in this story, all of the people in her nation and in the continent of Biru, all of them have a disdain or hate the Habsburgians, the other nation. Okay, so basically, she has that belief uh, based on a societal instruction. Basically, is what every kid in her nation believe. In uh, 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 mm, but I also wanted her to have a specific event or a specific person that make her more radical than everyone else because everyone in their country is like, yeah, the Habsburgians suck, but meh, what can be done? Uh, uh, but she's like, no, yeah, they suck, but they deserve to be erased from the face of Earth. So basically, her belief is not just they suck. No, her belief is they deserve to literally be erased from history, from all of this, because they have created such genocide, they have created such atrocious things to our people. So basically, they have to literally die, all of them, and their power of animals. Oh yeah, and I want also one thing about this thing about the powers, because each nation has assigned a moral value to the powers. For example, for example, for example, the power of blood uh, is associated to the value of self, uh, 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 about using your own resources instead of taking about others. Because with the power of blood, you can use your blood as a weapon. You can use it, like, for example, like pressurized water, in which you can make rapid cuts and use it as a weapon. Okay, but the thing is that you have to use your own blood to make attacks and powers. So basically, you don't need to use things of others in order to defend yourself.
So
Okay.
I like this. I think this is working. So you were mentioning wanting to have some of the set pieces built out. What are you thinking about your set pieces right now? I know.
Okay. For example,
Yeah. Let's just talk about the set pieces. Where are you at on this?
okay. So I had some ideas for the first episode because the first episode sets the conflict. Okay. So basically, in the first episode, it is said that basically the nations of Biru, of the continent, are all in a war. So basically, even though all of them gained the independence from Habsburg, from the past 50 years, they have still been in war um, with each other. And the thing is that Habsburg is still an associate with with some of them. So basically, uh, and it is a fact that Flor, the protagonist, hates, because she's like, why are we still dealing with the enemy? Why are we still giving money and receiving resources from our primary enemy? Okay, yeah. So the thing is that basically after one of these conflicts is over, because she's always fighting in these wars, and the thing is that her commander is going to have a meeting in another Virulian country to meet a Habsburgian commander.
Okay.
And the thing is that her commander even though he cares about her, he is not going to let her come to the reunion because he knows that he knows that she's going to go feral with Hasburian commander. That she is going to say all awful things to them or even threaten them. So basically, uh, so basically, he's going to get there alone. But she manages to go with him secretly. Uh, 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 because she wants to go to that reunion in that country and basically tell all of the leaders uh, uh, of the of the Bolivian side to stop trading with them because she thinks that the Habsburgians only want to get piece by piece again the continent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the thing is that so the thing is that they both go to them. She enters inexpertly into the reunion. She basically attacks, at least verbally, the Habsburgian commander,
So let
which
me
will
pause
be
you
the
for just a
enemy of
second
this.
here. That space that they're in, that's your set piece.
All right.
So what is that space? Describe the space they're in.
It's basically like a congress. It's basically a congress in which they will decide if they give a little more territory to Habsburg because they have been giving them resources in the war, in the continental war. So basically, they are deciding if they want to give a little pieces of territory in order to please the Habsburgians for helping them in this conflict. But I think that she says no. Stop giving anything to our enemies. Like basically, this is nuts. Uh, 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 and in this scene, she wins the argument. But the thing is that then some soldiers in the night uh, attack the place and basically kidnap her commander.
Okay.
And she and she thinks that this attack was organized by the Habsburgian commander Santiago. So basically, she beats him and she puts him in prison. And everything everything is that he denies it, that he do that. So basically, she has to find them because she knows that they take him to the jungle in the of that country. So basically, she needs someone that can go. So need so she needs someone that could guide her through the jungle and help her. So basically, she goes to the jungle, and she goes after a woman called Maria, and Maria is also a mixed woman. So basically,
So let me
they
let me
both
pause you
have.
for just a second. You're kind of speeding through the story here. That's okay. But
All right, all right.
you're all right. Essentially, the spaces that those characters are in, you mentioned the Congress initially, that's going to be your set piece, right? And then the other spaces where you mentioned where she is fighting the Santiago, that's another set piece, right? So the set pieces are essentially your setting pieces, right? The pieces of the setting that we are building out and saying, okay, how is this particular set piece connected to our concept and showing the specific conflict that's taking place right now? And so the Congress conflict, I really like that because you can create this space that very clearly shows externally how things are usually done here. You can fill it up with all those Congress people. I think that's going to be a very cool set piece. So ultimately, your set pieces are your setting pieces. So as you have these big moments that you're describing, you want to say, okay, where's the exact place that is happening? And how am I taking time on the setting so that this strong backdrop can be there when the characters are having these major conflicts in it?
All right, all right, all right. Okay. Uh, okay. But then one episode can have multiple. Okay, but one episode can have multiple set pieces, right?
Absolutely.
All right, all right.
Absolutely.
I be, oh yeah, I was kind of afraid of filling these parts because I was like, but about in my about my about in my outline of the episode, there are multiple there there are at least three major scenes. Basically, the one in the Congress, the one in the jungle, and finally the one in the train in the climax, in which and basically at the scene in the climax in the train in which all of the people are running because the Habsburgians are coming and they are using the animals to attack all of the people, and they have to get in the trains to evacuate the city. As basically that's the climax. And the thing is that in the climax, he has to use for the first time in his life the animal power in in order to save an innocent family. And, and basically that, and basically this is something that I will be constructed throughout the episode because because she in the jungle uh, meets a woman called Maria, and basically Maria is a mixed woman who has accepted all of the powers instead, and that basically makes conflict between her and Flor a lot more intense because Flor is trying to renegade all of them. She's saying, Maria, you are a traitor because you are using the power of the enemy."
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, throughout the episode, Maria uses that power in order to go to the jungle. Because in the jungle there are many animals, and the thing is that many of the Habsburgians that have power over the animals are using the animals as guardians. So basically, she's also using that power in order to get through the jungle.
Yeah, I think it's a very cool story that you have here. I like it a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, in this episode, uh, uh, even though the incited incident is just rescue this important person, at the end it's basically rescue all of the city, because the enemy, as she always despises, is finally making their move and is taking this nation. And why this nation? Because this nation is the most is the nation with the most jungle of all of them. So basically, it has a lot of animals. So basically, the Habsburgians are going to use this jungle to have a lot of different animals to have different missions in order to conquer all of the continent.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. But one thing I have here is that how do you write a script when or how do you write an episode when let's say in the second season is going to be revealed that some of those scenes or moments were actually not as we seem. For example, in all this conflict, there is also a third nation, the nation of the north, and basically they have the power of light. And the thing is that they are the ones causing conflict between the two nations because they have the power to create illusions. So basically, I want to give it the sensation that in this first episode, her commander was really a part of the North. So basically, he ignited all of this conflict uh, in order for Flor to become more radicalized.
So you're asking me, what are you asking me?
Basically, how you can write an episode like uh, uh,
Connected to a season 2?
Yeah, but in the sense that but in the sense, I thought this scene or this moment was this way, but actually was that way. So, so how you can make a moment that functions both in the context of that episode, but also is consistent with the big reveal that is going to be revealed later, that is going to change the perception you had in this first episode.
So the way that I would do it is just give it from a different perspective, or maybe from the opposite character's perspective later on. So let's say there's 5 characters in a scene. We are mainly looking at the scene from, so if we take the Dark Knight interrogation scene that I took a look at today, and the main attention point is Batman versus Joker in that scene. But then we also have Gordon and the cops that are around him in that scene. One thing you could do if you wanted to add information or change perspective on a scene that we already have seen is that we return to that older scene through the eyes of a different character. And now we see other things that we did not focus on, or we see different things happen. And that can be how you can twist or shift the perspective of a scene that has already happened.
All right, all right. Yeah. That is a good idea. Uh, I think that I can make that shift in perspective in later episodes using the character of the commander of Floor. So basically, the one that was, basically the one that was kidnapped. So basically, to show how he helped to orchestrate all of this in order to create all of this situation.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, all right.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like that.
Okay. So I will use the rest of the day to try to make the set pieces for all of the episodes because, yeah,
That would be
I think I
awesome.
have a good.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
if you came back, I would love to see if you were able to fill out set pieces for each of the episodes. That would be awesome. I would love to take a look at that. I think we could really get in deep on adding in ideas and, you know, saying yes and to the work that you come forward with. I think that'd be super cool.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, thanks.
For sure. Good to see you again.
Okay. Yeah. Me too. Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right. I've got one final question I'm seeing from Elmo in the YouTube chat. Elmo says, "Hey, Tyler, I was wondering if I'm working on a mystery, do I still need to have an interesting concept to stand out, or would the mystery be intriguing enough? Generally speaking, I mean." So your concept's going to be connected to the setting that you're placing the story in. So you're going to have a concept no matter what. And you're also using a mystery genre. So you're going to have a setting. And then you're going to be using mystery conventions, which means you're going to have a cast of characters that are all in their own place doing their own thing within this setting. So the biggest thing I would say is you do need to pick a setting that is interesting, right? Like, is this in a big mansion? Is this in some sort of small town? Is this some sort of sci-fi? Is this a spaceship mystery, right? Like, where is it? Grabbing that setting and making that setting very clear and important to what's going on, I think is going to be what gives your mystery story that extra piece of life. So you don't necessarily need to say, oh, I need to do a crazy extra concept on top of this. It's more just, I need to have a setting that is unique and interesting and signature to my particular mystery story. I think if you do that, you shouldn't have any other issue. Guys, this has been a great live stream today. Thank you for hopping in, for listening. Thank you to those who brought projects forward. I love when you guys bring stuff forward. It makes my day. I love working with you guys on stuff. If you're interested in having me take a look at a framework that you are working on, click the link below this live stream, join the Discord, hop in here, and we can absolutely take a look at your story. I would love to take a look at your story. I hope you have been helped, and I'll see you next time. Until then, be good and happy writing. Peace.